Yon nan pi gros cadeau yon moun ka bay tête li, c'est l'el prend service nan meyon professionnel la. Dans ce sens ça, si ou nan Florida ou bien dans quel que soit l'autre état yo, m'a préféré un Stallone Anilis qui nan tête Stallone Multiservices qui gen plus passé 10 l'année depuis la bay communauté à service avec un pile courtoisie. Quel que soit service ou besoin dans affaires immigration tant que résidence, TPS, asile, citizenship, carte travail la trier, c'est sans problème. Ou besoin de traduire un document dans quel que soit langue nan, notarion papier, appliqué pour food stamp avec un pile l'autre service encore, relais Stallone dans 561 971 95 79. Stallone Multiservices en Chita dans 2 adresses 5700 Lequef Road, suite 310-3, Greenacres, Florida 33463. Deuxième location c'est dans 500 South Australian Avenue, suite 524 West Palm Beach, Florida 33401 dans Downtown West Palm Beach. Relais pour un rendez-vous dans 561 971 95 79 ou bien visitez website Business Plan pour plus d'informations sur www.talonmservices.com.
Moi-même Césaire, depuis jeudi, vendredi 8 arrivé, je vais faire l'autre bagaille que garder Connexion Plus. C'est Chita pour me garder Pasteur Benjamin. Connexion Plus.
Êtes-vous un propriétaire d'entreprise qui fait partie de notre communauté haïtienne dynamique en Floride et dans les Caraïbes? Si tel est le cas, vous avez probablement remarqué à quel point la vidéo devient importante en matière de marketing, de vente et de capture de souvenirs. En fait, l'utilisation de la vidéo est récemment devenue une attente des clients dans le monde entier. Et que vous le sachiez ou non, vous avez une histoire inspirante mais non contée. Votre point de vue unique sur le travail, la vie et tout le reste. Mais avec tout le monde qui crée du contenu en ligne maintenant, il est presque impossible de se démarquer. C'est pourquoi vous avez besoin de Lens Magic de Cajou TV, des services de production vidéo auxquels vous pouvez faire confiance. Des courts et longs films, des émissions de télévision aux événements en direct, au contenu des médias sociaux, aux occasions spéciales, quels que soient vos besoins vidéo, aucun projet n'est trop grand ou petit. Lens Magic utilise uniquement les dernières technologies et équipements pour ravir nos clients à chaque fois. Notre excellente réputation au sein de la communauté est basée sur d'innombrables projets réussis, réalisés au cours des 20 dernières années dans toute la Floride, Haïti et les Caraïbes. Et en plus, nos forfaits flexibles garantissent aux clients la meilleure qualité à des prix abordables. Alors qu'est-ce que vous attendez? Visitez cajoutv.tv et découvrez comment vous pouvez utiliser la vidéo pour mieux raconter vos histoires.
Non, moi, c'est Nicole Alexis. Moi, sorti de New York. Chaque jeudi, chaque vendredi à 8h, 9h, moi branché Connexion Plus. Connexion Plus, c'est moi-même, c'est vous-même, c'est lui-même, c'est nous tous.
Ou même qui c'est ouvrier CRA ou qui aspirait à faire ministère dans l'église locale.
Bonsoir. Je suis pasteur Raymond qui vous souhaite la plus cordiale bienvenue sur Connexion Plus. Connexion Plus est une émission d'éducation, d'adresse et de l'orange. Merci de votre fidélité, merci d'avoir connecté. Good evening, Madame Pasteur Raymond Benjamin. I'm going to welcome our guest tonight on Connexion Plus. I'm honored to introduce you our guest tonight, Mrs. Lourdes Casanova. She's been a lawyer for a while. She's a caring person. She treats everyone equally. She is very involved within her community. She's now running for judge to help bring on justice for all. Once again, it is an honor to have you here, Ms. Lourdes. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Pastor, for having me. It is an honor to be here.
Absolutely. I'm honored to introduce you to the co-host for tonight, whose name is Mr. Fladimir Celunice. He is a lawyer from the State Attorney's Office. Welcome, Mr. Fladimir. Thank you for being here.
Well, Pastor, thanks for having me. I'm a long-time friend of the show, and anytime Pastor Ben asks for something, he say yes.
I appreciate it. Thank you once again. Nous avons honneur à soya pour nous guider ensemble avec nous, Miss Lourdes Casanova. Li c'est un avocat longtemps dans Palm Beach County. D'abord, il était un prosecuteur. Après ça, il a travaillé dans office Pali pendant 8 ans. Il est réellement involved dans la communauté. Il sont qui care. Il remet moun. Il est très passionate about people. Guess what? She's running for judge. Now, c'est lui-même qui a prochaine juge nous pour Palm Beach County. Nous gagnons honneur pour nous présenter à Connexion Plus, Miss Lourdes Casanova, c'est qui a won pour judge pour Palm Beach County pour grande élection fait dans August 20 2024. Pas oublier pour ta ça pour faire pour grand monde. Donc si vous voulez un plus bon juge, un bon juge dans Palm Beach County, il y a un plus bon juge yo, m'encourager au faire un choix. And this is my pleasure to introduce my co-host for tonight, Mr. Vlad. You have the mic.
Good evening, everyone. As you all know, I'm a friend of the show. Tonight, I'll be the co-host, and we're gonna get to know Miss Casanova a little bit more. As Pastor Benjamin noted, she's running for judge, and this gives us an opportunity to know a little bit more about her and her campaign and what she plans on bringing to the bench. So we're going to get right into it, and we're going to have you introduce yourself and just tell the Connection Please family about yourself and your background and what inspired you to pursue a career in law.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again for having me, and thank you to the audience for this opportunity to learn a little bit about my background and experience. My name is Lourdes Casanova. I am running for County Court Judge here in Palm Beach County. I am a lifelong resident of Palm Beach County. I've been here since I was 3 years old, so I don't remember anywhere else. My parents are from Cuba, and that's really my motivation to run for judge. My family came from a country that did not respect the rule of law, did not respect separation of powers, due process, access to courts. And because of that, a lot of my family members were persecuted, and they suffered the loss of liberty. And unfortunately, one even lost his life. So I would say that my love for our constitutional principles and my respect for the law comes from a place that's not a textbook, right? It doesn't come from something I learned in school. It's something I learned at birth from my family's experiences. So that's what led me to pursue a career in law and now a judicial seat. I started out as a prosecutor at the Palm Beach County State Attorney's Office after going to the University of Florida. Go Gators, I had to throw that in there. I went to the University of Florida for undergraduate and law school. And I really learned to be a lawyer as a prosecutor because, as you well know, you get thrown into the fire immediately. You handle jury trials without necessarily having someone sitting next to you or having any sort of preparation. You just have to do it. So you conduct jury trials. The caseload is 300 to 400 cases daily, and when you close a case, you get more. So you're just used to that sense of efficiency and having to learn in the moment and being resourceful. Then after my time as a prosecutor, I founded my law firm, Casanova Law. I'm really proud because it's a multi-practice firm, and one of the things that are very important, I believe, in a judge is to be able to learn different areas of law. Because if I am elected, the chief judge would place me in any division that he chooses. And I could be placed in the criminal division, or I could be placed in the civil division. I have litigated as a business owner of Casanova Law, criminal, traffic, and civil, and all of the divisions. So I've done small claims cases. I still do criminal now on the defense side. So I've been in government practice and private practice. I do traffic tickets, and then within the criminal cases, I do unique areas such as fish and wildlife, juvenile law, sealing and expunging. So all of those things could possibly come before a judge in county court, except juvenile. Juvenile is in the circuit court. But I think that just broadens the experience. And sometimes you have juvenile clients in criminal traffic cases that come before the county court because criminal traffic cases, it doesn't matter if you're underage, it's going to go within the county court system. And a unique area that I also do that is not within the county court system, but I think it's important to have this breadth of knowledge, is immigration law. And thank you. I think immigration law is important and relevant for the county court because a lot of people in Palm Beach County who would come before me are immigrants, right? And they may or may not have status. So having that understanding, and as you know yourself, a lot of times within criminal cases there are immigration concerns. So that understanding is important. Also because of my background, not only in immigration law, but from where I come from my family, I'm trilingual. I think that's going to help me in the court system as well. And immigration is really a microcosm of county court because you interact with people from all walks of life. And county court is known as the people's court. A lot of people represent themselves because they cannot afford an attorney. And we do have a very, very diverse group of people here in Palm Beach County. So I think from the background of being the daughter of immigrants to being a prosecutor where I've had to handle a large caseload, to now as a business owner practicing several areas of law and interacting with people from all walks of life, I believe that makes me the most well-rounded candidate.
Well, ma pe se on summarize de ça et Ms. Savona dit. Ms. Casanova, c'est un avocat pour un bon temps dans Palm Beach County. Il involve en pile dans question activité pour moun et il sorti parent sorti Cuba et il connaît comment dans pays ça côté on pas respecter loi, il pas respecter justice et l'expérience bagage ça yo. Donc c'est la raison pourquoi il fait expérience pendant le temps que il est un prosecuteur, il a ouvert propre business par il ouais comment le bagage marcher, il dit hey, on veut aller beaucoup plus loin, capable aider peuple moins tout le monde dans ça pour capable vivre l'autre mieux-être, capable de l'autre perspective de la justice. So, n'encourage très fort pas oublier voter pour monde qu'on connaît, monde qui care pour, monde qui porte dans cœur li. On connaît Miss Casanova very long. I know her for a very long time. She's a very nice lady, always laugh, always have something to say. How are you, Mr. Benjamin? How are you, Mr. Francisco? So she's a very nice lady. She's very care. So we pas regret.
Okay. So Ms. Casanova, I do appreciate that background. It gives us a lot of insight about who you are, where you came from. I said it really mirrors the community. Being in Palm Beach County, we do have a huge population of Haitians and Hispanics, so that background is very appreciated. We know a lot of your voters will be ethnically diverse. Being that this is a Haitian show, and I want to say Haiti and Cuba, there's some relations there. We are dealing with some issues of our own in Haiti, and so we can relate to that kind of background and what you can potentially bring as a judge. I do want to ask you our second question, which would be what motivated you to run for a judge position at this point in your career?
And that's a great question because the first question was more about my background and what inspired me to be a judge, but why now? So as an attorney, I was an advocate, right? I am an advocate. I still am. I was an advocate for the state of Florida and for victims' rights. As a prosecutor, as a defense attorney, I ensure that my clients' constitutional rights are being respected. But I came to a point in my career a few years ago where I realized, based on what my family went through, that being an advocate is not enough to ensure that liberty is preserved in the courts. So I want to be able to be in a position to make those decisions that preserve liberty in the courts, and of course, by respecting the rule of law.
Well, raison qu'il voulait run for judge, c'est parce que il voulait respecter le principe loyaux, mais aussi qu'il y a position qui aider plus de monde dans ce sens ça, en tant que monde qui a un background Cuba et qui relate avec haïtien, nous connaissons que en groupe ethnique c'est haïtien plus de monde qui rite en Palm Beach County en termes de groupe ethnique. nous plus en pile. Ça veut dire que non seulement il fait expérience avec les gens qui sont dans l'immigration, il connaît, mais aussi il servi le peuple dans l'autre dimension, c'est ça qui motive là, il peut aller one for judge.
And just to go back to your response there, I've only been an attorney for a year, so I've only been in front of maybe 4 judges. And as far as trials, depending on what judge you're in front of, even though they're neutral parties, they're more so, I want to say referees, they're more so there to guide us as attorneys, but you can definitely see a difference in your case and in the way it goes based on who's up there, who's sitting as a judge. So I think it's important that whoever is sitting there, that we understand their background, we understand their motives, and where they're kind of leaning towards, because it is a big change in the outcome of a ruling sometimes, depending on who's the judge. How has your experience as a lawyer, how has it prepared you for the role of a judge?
Well, being a prosecutor, as I mentioned before, makes you efficient, right? But also now as a business owner who has run a bar association at the same time. So I wear many hats. Last year I was the president of the Palm Beach County Hispanic Bar Association at the same time that I was running a business. And now I'm running a business while being a lawyer, while campaigning, right? So all of that has prepared me for judge in terms of efficiency. I think it merits a little more discussion in terms of the prosecutorial role, because as a prosecutor, your job, as you know, is not just to prosecute. Your job ultimately is to do justice. Yeah. And so there is a difference with a prosecutor's role as compared to any other role that you have as an attorney, whether it's a criminal defense attorney, an immigration attorney, a state planning attorney. As a prosecutor, your primary job is to do justice. So that in and of itself prepares you for judge, because you have to look at things from the perspective of justice. Not necessarily, I'm going to make sure that this case goes all the way and this person goes to jail. You have to see what is just, right? And what is just is, a lot of factors, right? Oh, yeah. So the factor could be, as a prosecutor, of course, one factor should always be, what is the law? And did this person violate the law? But beyond that, you are allowed to consider someone's age, someone's circumstance, right? Whether it's an economic circumstance or family circumstance, whatever the criminal history is, the nature of the offense itself, and any and all surrounding circumstances. So I think the breadth of experience that you get as a prosecutor and your role of putting justice first really prepares you for the bench. And I believe that is the most meaningful experience that has prepared me for the bench.
Okay. Well, tant que le passé dans Palm Beach County, dans State Attorney's Office là, il y a assez de préparation pour occuper position ça, il va l'occuper comme juge là. Non seulement ça, il gagne pour business parler, il était responsable bar association là, et aussi il était la fait campagne, il fait tout ça à the same time. Ça veut dire que son monde qui est capable qui fait plusieurs bagages en même temps. Il prépare tête li, préparer connaissance li et habilité pour capable faire en même temps. Donc ça qui est plus important, c'est que il dit que justice et pas ou fait ou bail justice avec équité. Il pas fait mon injustice. Avant que le juge voit mon en prison, il y a toute area, toute raison, toute circonstance qui capable causer problème là. Et finalement, il y a en prison dans ce sens. Et c'est ça, et pas juge pas en prison, c'est loi qui va en prison. Le rôle en tant que juge, c'est garder faire considération ça yo, est-ce que ça qui pas marcher. Regarder état mental ou situation économique ou etc. après pour faire un jugement. Donc on pense que avec ce nouveau sang de new blood qui peut entrer dans le bench là, grand peu d'espoir encore une fois pour Palm Beach County.
And I'm glad you share that perspective too as a prosecutor. Me as a young prosecutor now, obviously I can relate. I can relate at the way I take on cases, the way I look at them. And you are sitting in the role as a judge, sort of, kind of, because the first thing I'll ask a defense attorney is, give me some mitigating factors. Sometimes that's age, sometimes that's their caretakers, and we do have to take that into account, and obviously the offense and the law, how it relates to the law.
Absolutely.
And I think that is the position as a prosecutor. I think that's the job that prepares you the most to sit as a judge. I think you're correct in that. I wanted to ask, can you share some notable cases that you've worked on and how they've shaped your perspective on the law?
The most notable cases I have worked on are pro bono cases. So in addition to everything that I do in terms of volunteering for the community, as I mentioned, Hispanic Bar Association, where I was president, I volunteer for Special Olympics as well,
So cool.
Latinos in Action, which is a mentorship program. But I also do pro bono work, and I think it's very important because I was talking earlier about the People's Court.
Yeah.
And those are the types of cases that I take. I take pro bono cases from the People's Court. I help people who cannot afford an attorney, right? Otherwise, they would be representing themselves. And a lot of these cases are debt collection cases, small claims, disputes. But these are everyday. These issues are everyday life.
Okay.
This is what comes before the county court. But it really gives you an added layer of compassion when you're seeing someone going through a really tough time, someone who is in a really tough situation. And of course, as an attorney, you're always interacting with someone who may not be in, almost always interacting with someone who may not be in the best situation, right?
Yeah.
But really, when you are interacting with the low-income community, someone who wouldn't have otherwise had an attorney, and you stand up and you are the voice for that person, it gives you an added layer of compassion. And don't get me wrong, it's not to say that my feelings would get in the way of the law. You know, I will always make rulings based on the law, but in terms of how you deliver the ruling, right? In terms of within the law, your discretion as a judge, where the law allows it, allowing you to review all the extenuating circumstances. I think it's those pro bono cases for the low income population that has really shaped me and prepared me for the county court. That's the majority of people who will be in the county court.
Yeah. Okay. I know you mentioned a lot of different areas of the law that you specialize in. How have these areas influenced your judicial philosophy?
In every area, I believe in the rule of law, because the rule of law is the only objective way, right, to justice. When you're thinking of any other way that you would make a decision, what could it be? A personal bias, right? Or whether you feel bad for someone, whether you're against something, or whether you have a particular view. None of that should be relevant in the courtroom.
Yeah.
What should be relevant is the law, and the way that because sometimes you don't even realize that you're biased about something. So the only way to make sure that bias isn't creeping in is by following the law. But I would say in every area, in immigration, in traffic, criminal, and like I said, even all of the smaller subsections or subsets of criminal law, like I said, juvenile, sealing and expunging, fish and wildlife law. My object is to make arguments under the law, right? And when I'm counseling, actually going back to immigration again, even though it is not within the county court jurisdiction, immigration is one of those situations where there's not necessarily a case. As you know, with criminal law, with traffic, someone gets charged, and now you have to have representation, or you have to go and represent yourself. But with immigration, there may or may not be a case. That's the difference. So with immigration law, my job is always to do a consultation with the potential client and assess whether there is a remedy under the law. So I think that's given me an extra level of understanding for what the law is, how to assess it and also deliver that news, whether it's good or bad, to the client. And that's something that you have to do on the bench, right? And with immigration law, a lot of times the answer is there is no remedy. So you have to get used to delivering bad news because maybe there isn't a remedy under the law. And the last thing you want to do is tell someone that you have a remedy, let's take your case, and there really isn't one, right? So that's not correct, that's not ethical. So really you want to assess the law, explain it to the client, and give the truthful answer. And that's what you have to do as a judge, right? You have to hear the arguments. Of course, you're the neutral, you are the neutral arbiter of the law on the bench. But of course, you have to determine whether or not that person is going to get an adverse ruling or a ruling in that person's favor. You're going to have to deliver that information based on the information that you have, based on the facts and based on the law.
Yeah. Encore une fois, raison que les pralé pour juge pour tout ça qu'a fait doit basé sur loi. Et pas basé sur groupe ethnique, sur couleur peau, sur côté sorti, mais que tout ça qu'a fait doit basé sur la loi. Et avant de faire une décision, vous devez regarder tout area côté puis ouais qui ça cause problème ça. Et c'est que ça que nous avons besoin dans Palm-Beach County. C'est le type de monde ça que nous avons besoin dans Palm-Beach County qui pour garder situation yo, qui pas regarder avec l'autre yeux, mais qui regarder avec nos yeux humains dans ce sens ça. Et pour raison ça m'encourager nous pas oublier voter Miss Casanova.
And I think it's important to note that the law is the law, and we do have to follow it, even if we don't like it. Sometimes our legislatures, we've put them in position to, make these laws, and we have to follow them. We do have our discretion. As a judge, you have your discretion. Well, you will have your discretion as a judge, and your experiences, your background, that's where it'll come into play. But first and foremost, we do have to follow the rule of law. Any experiences in the court? Have you had any experiences in the court that have particularly influenced your approach to justice?
All of them. I can't name one in particular. I mean, other than the ones that I've discussed before about interacting with the low-income population or the most vulnerable population, people from all walks of life. I will say in terms of more in a practical way, let's talk about practical justice, right? Mm-hmm. Because we talked about justice in terms of the rule of law and integrity and fairness. But I think that justice can be best served by being efficient. So we can talk about the practical implications of that and my experiences in court. I have been in courtrooms that are more efficient than others, and I do notice that there is not only a higher rate of satisfaction among the litigants, right, the lawyers and the litigants, but there's a sense that justice was served because ordinary people have to go to work, right, and anytime they have a court date, they're missing work. And I know with a lot of my clients, they don't necessarily have a flexible schedule. They don't go, they're not getting paid, right? So just the perception of being able to go back into your daily life, handling what you need to handle in court, and being able to go back to your life and your family and your job, I think that plays into the sense of justice. I think also if a case continues for too long, the person may feel like they're not being heard, right? Or what's going on with my case? How come no one cares about my case? And that's probably not true, or but the feeling is valid, right? The perception is there, and I think perception matters in our justice system because what we want to do is have a positive view of our judicial system. We want the public to have a positive view so that they can continue to reinforce it, to believe in it.
Well, ça qui est important, c'est que nous avons un système qui respecte les lois, les principes, et nous encourage. Ça fait que le besoin d'un monde qui pour appliquer les lois, ça, gens sans fausse côté. C'est ça me remet système aux États-Unis. Donc façon système nan ya, son système qui est pour tout le monde. Nous avons besoin de mettre de what person à the what place. What at the what place. What place, I'm sorry. So, il faut mettre de vrais monde dans vraie place li. Pour avoir un bon système, c'est vrai, mais pas aller mal dans ça. This is why nous m'encourager pour nous faire plus bon choix. Il y a un meilleur moyen pour changer un système. Non système démocratique, c'est voter. C'est m'encourager chaque haïtien qui gagne possible de voter, déplacer 20 août là pour aller voter. Voter tout le monde qui est local, voter juge là, voter juge pour pas regretter.
I want to say like some of your responses are like a breath of fresh air. I can tell that I can tell you're going to bring a real world perspective to the bench, and sometimes that's missing. Sometimes judges are so far removed from, I want to say, society and everything that's going on that they might forget what that person at that time is dealing with. I know as a prosecutor, sometimes I forget too. Sometimes I get wrapped up in the law and I'm like, but you know, they did this. But I think looking at it from that perspective kind of brings a real world perspective to it. And I think bringing that perspective to it, that's the best way to deliver true and accurate justice. How would you describe your judicial philosophy?
We did touch upon this earlier, but I would love to reiterate it because I am a committed person to the rule of law. I am committed to the rule of law, and I'm committed to separation of powers. In fact, when you think about the word Constitution, people think it's a piece of paper, it's a document. But what does Constitution actually mean? It means the structure. And it is the structure of our separation of powers that protects us. It's not necessarily the Bill of Rights. Those are just promises on paper. And anyone who has had family who has come from a dictatorship knows the real life effects of a judiciary that maybe is an arm of the executive or an arm of the legislative branch. A judiciary that is not independent. And so the only way you can have an independent judiciary is by respecting the rule of law. And like I said earlier, that is the only objective way to look at a case without letting any sort of biases or any sort of personal opinions or political beliefs or anything else creep in. It's following the letter of the law.
Well, yon nan moyen pour nous garder loi yo, c'est make sure que nos lois pas indépendant, mais lorsque nous appliquons la loi yo, juste pour nous appliquer li. Et le ça nous fait un bon avenir indépendant dans ce sens. Parce qu'il y a de vrais monde dans place là et qui respectent tête et qui parle de justice là à tout le monde sans fausse côté, mais ça aide le système à marcher plus bien.
If elected, what's your primary goal?
Well, we talked about some of this, but efficiency, I've said it again and again, but efficiency is so important, and I know I can be efficient because, again, being a prosecutor, having to handle cases quickly and such a high volume caseload is what you would have as a judge. Fairness, integrity, treating everyone with respect. I did not mention earlier that, yes, in addition to the fact that I'm the daughter of immigrants and what my whole family story is, I started out in ESOL, English for speakers of other languages, and I was in a low-income family myself. So growing up with limited means and growing up having to be separated from all the other students, being pulled from class, and having to take ESOL class and then going back to my regular studies, just gave me a different perspective in terms of compassion and having, treating everybody fairly. And but it also, and you guys can relate to this, I think this is the Caribbean story, right? In many ways, and the immigrant story. There's a lot of passion, there's a lot of drive, right? And I'm going to take that with me to the bench. So I went from ESOL student to valedictorian of my high school class. then to excelling at the University of Florida in undergraduate and then law school. And here I am, chasing my dream to be a judge. And I think that passion and drive, go in there every day as a judge and be grateful that you're in that position and take it very seriously and put in the work, not just sit back and relax. You need to be able to put in the work and do your homework as a judge.
Yeah.
Exactement. Pendant que nous allons prendre pause, juste avant nous prendre pause, nous allons essayer de voir un petit glimpse dans sa solde. Lis fait un peu l'expérience. Ici, petit, ils ont immigré ensemble avec nous. Là, les dans isol classe, les garder et nous regarder nous sommes de Cuba et Haïti, nous sommes voisins. Donc nous sommes même problème justice la caille nous. Là, les dans isol classe, là les l'autre classe pour voir comment ça marche et je dis mon petit yo immigrant qui aller dans high school même ensemble avec petit Paula. Là il dans collège université mais il y a petit Paula qui est un avocat dans le pays qui non seulement qu'on a dit pas créer là de une jeune dame la continuer poursuivre ambitionner pour venir un juge. Ça nous ba un bel bravo. Applaudissements Miss Casanova as a young woman who don't want to stop pursuing your dream. Ça doit inspirer nous entre une jeune femme, jeune garçon, pas quitter un rien bloqué. Don't let anything stop you from moving forward. Your dream, it is possible to achieve your dream. You need to stay focused, stick on your dream, and one day you will see we will be in the same seat than Miss Casanova. Donc, s'il fait en tant que petit immigrant, ou qu'a fait tout. Ça nous la soya pour nous encourager ou jeune garçon, jeune fille, Miss Casanova, jeune madame qui passe dans toute la classe mais c'est pas un choc de ça. It's not by chance that you're here tonight.
Yeah.
It's been a long journey. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So,
I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. So, if she can do it, you can do it as well. But one thing, we need to stay focused. N'a pas pause à tourner à l'heure.
Êtes-vous un propriétaire d'entreprise qui fait partie de notre communauté haïtienne dynamique en Floride et dans les Caraïbes ? Si tel est le cas, vous avez probablement remarqué à quel point la vidéo devient importante en matière de marketing, de vente et de capture de souvenirs. En fait, l'utilisation de la vidéo est récemment devenue une attente des clients dans le monde entier. Et que vous le sachiez ou non, vous avez une histoire inspirante mais non contée. Votre point de vue unique sur le travail, la vie et tout le reste. Mais avec tout le monde qui crée du contenu en ligne maintenant, il est presque impossible de se démarquer. C'est pourquoi vous avez besoin de Lens Magic de Cajou TV, des services de production vidéo auxquels vous pouvez faire confiance. Des courts et longs films, des émissions de télévision aux événements en direct, au contenu des médias sociaux, aux occasions spéciales, quels que soient vos besoins vidéo, aucun projet n'est trop grand ou petit. Lens Magic utilise uniquement les dernières technologies et équipements pour ravir nos clients à chaque fois. Notre excellente réputation au sein de la communauté est basée sur d'innombrables projets réussis, réalisés au cours des 20 dernières années dans toute la Floride, Haïti et les Caraïbes. Et en plus, nos forfaits flexibles garantissent aux clients la meilleure qualité à des prix abordables. Alors qu'est-ce que vous attendez ? Visitez cajoutv.tv et découvrez comment vous pouvez utiliser la vidéo pour mieux raconter vos histoires.
Non, moi, c'est Nicole Alexis. Moi, sorti de New York. Chaque jeudi, chaque vendredi à 8h, 9h, moi branché Connexion Plus. Connexion Plus, c'est moi-même, c'est vous-même, c'est lui-même, c'est nous tous.
Ou même qui c'est ouvrier CRA ou qui aspire à faire ministère dans l'église locale, moi j'ai un bon genre nouvelle pour. MISED, Mathetes Institute School of Evangelism and Discipleship, a offrir une série de diplômes spécialisés dans disciplines tant que leadership l'église, éducation chrétienne, évangélisation, apologétique chrétienne, interpréter la Bible, counseling familial, présentation études bibliques, Ancien et Nouveau Testament, nan souci pour bien équiper ouvrier cap fait ministère ou qui voulait faire ministère l'église à qui on dynamique sans pareil. Dans MISED, nous fait l'école yon l'autre gens et nous croyons tout le monde peut apprendre et tout le monde doit bien apprendre pour faire ministère Saint avancer. N'a invité tout chrétien haïtien tout côté sous la terre. Vin étudier Bible dans bon timamite avec une équipe professeur qui non seulement gagne en maîtrise pour pipiti, mais qui chargé avec expérience dans affaires enseignement. C'est un programme hybride qu'a fait en direct une fois par semaine sur une plateforme tant que Zoom, Team, Google Meet, et puis tout chaque étudiant a bien un tableau de bord pour le bambiler et faire devoir, quiz avec examen. C'est là tout, il y a bien accès à tout document et ressources pour tout couillot. En plus, document principal chaque grain coup. Kounuyo a fait en créole et en français et très bientôt en anglais pendant 12 grains de mois seulement. Qui pi bel cadeau qu'a offert tout avec ministère bon Dieu que préparer pour servir royaume Christ là avec excellence et avec passion. Pour inscrire dans MICED et joindre plus de détails et informations, seulement tapez mathetesinstitute.com. Yundilot, MICED, une école pour étudier la Bible avec excellence et passion. Nouvelle session.
Moi, c'est Jean-Enoch Bruni, pasteur de la première église de Dieu de West Palm Beach, First Haitian Church of God of West Palm Beach. L'aime la caille moi chaque jeudi et chaque vendredi, commencer 8h pour 9h dans la soirée, c'est Connexion Plus, moi branché. Moi recommandé fortement pour capable brancher tout Connexion Plus avec pasteur Benjamin chaque jeudi et chaque vendredi, sorti 8h pour arriver 9h. Que bon Dieu bénisse.
Yon nan pi gros cadeau yon moun ka bay tête li, c'est le prend service nan yon professionnel là. Dans ce sens ça, si ou nan Florida ou bien dans quel que soit l'autre état yo, m'a préféré un Stallone Analyst qui nan tête Stallone Multi-Services qui gen plus passé 10 l'année depuis la bay communauté à service avec un pile courtoisie. Quel que soit service ou besoin dans affaires immigration tant que résidence, TPS, asile, citizenship, 4 travail la trier, c'est sans problème.
Bonsoir, nous sommes de retour sur Connexion Plus. Nous avons avec nous deux avocats, un prosecuteur et un défense lawyer. Nous gagnons ensemble avec nous M. Fladimir Celunice, c'est un prosecuteur de Palm Beach, de From State Attorney's Office. Et nous gagnons Ms. Casanova, Lourdes Casanova, c'est un défense lawyer qui travaille pour une private. We have two lawyers tonight. Ms. Casanova, she's a lawyer. She's running for judge. And also the co-host for tonight is Mr. Fladimir Celunice. Is also a prosecutor. He's a lawyer from the State Attorney's Office. We're going to continue to ask questions because she's running for judge. Within few weeks, she's going to become the judge of Palm Beach County. Are you sure? Yes, I'm positive. I am positive.
For sure.
I'm positive. No, there's no mistake. There's no mistake, right?
Amen.
Absolutely. This is why I'm here tonight to encourage you to promote Ms. Casanova as a new judge for Palm Beach County. And Connexion Plus endorse Ms. Casanova.
And with that, I'll get into the next question. What are some of the most pressing legal issues you believe the judiciary needs to address today?
Today and every day, due process and access to courts. We spoke about how efficiency could affect that. We've spoken about how treating everybody fairly and following the rule of law affects that. And another thing I haven't really spoken about is the rules of procedure. That's not necessarily the law, but the rules of procedure put in place by the Florida Supreme Court ensure that due process is being delivered. But a unique perspective on this would be the use of technology that has started to come in after COVID, right? And I believe the use of technology allows for increased access to courts and due process because a lot of people who have transportation issues or, as I mentioned before, people who can't really afford to miss work are now able to minimize the time that they're spending on their case by hopping on Zoom. So I think that technology, a lot of people think, well, I don't know how to describe it. I almost said technical, but technology and technical. So, but technology is just an administrative. That's the right word. So it's just an administrative question as to whether or not we should use it. But I think when you're looking at it from a broader perspective, the use of Zoom or whatever virtual platform you're going to use in order to access court is really going to increase someone's attendance in court, increase the efficiency, allow that person to be heard, and perhaps minimize the failures to appear.
Yeah.
Well, objectif, Ms. Lourdes Casanova, c'est pour faire justice à tout le monde, sans parti pris. Que ça coupe mon côté, ça couleur pour, ça n'importe côté sorti, ça langage pour parler, et bien justice là pour tout le monde. Si ça des rules of principe loi côté Florida les établi donc nous pas qu'à dépasser mais en même temps tout yo là pour faire appliquer la loi, Jean la loi doit appliquer pour tout le monde sans fausse côté.
And just speaking on efficiency and access to the courts and how technology kind of aids in that. I have seen increase in Zoom callers, people who Zoom in the court, and I think it's helping out with our failure to appears, and it's granting people more access to the court without sacrificing, their work. And it reminds me too. I saw it was like 2 social media posts. One of a guy he zoomed in the court, and he was doing some illegal activities while zoomed in the court. And another guy who was kind of doing the same. He zoomed in the court for driving under suspended license, and while on Zoom he was driving, and he tells the judge.
What?
I have seen it, and that is the downside. That is the downside of technology, right? Of remote hearings. But I would say the positives outweigh the negatives.
For sure.
But something I should say that I should have said before is that it is up to the judge to ensure not only fairness and efficiency, but courtroom decorum, right? And I believe that courtroom decorum doesn't just apply in the physical courtroom. Yeah. If someone is attending virtually, then that person needs to appear in the same way that person would be required to appear in the court. Because we need to maintain respect for our court system. And I'll admit we've gotten a little casual with the Zoom hearings, and that's the one concern that I would have. Oh, wow. But it doesn't outweigh the good.
For sure.
Bien. Alors, Ms. Cassano a fait 2 bons points. Premier point, c'est l'effet technologie. Il prend un exemple, un jeune garçon qui a un problème de licence qui est suspended, et puis il y a pour faire prosecution, et puis il a conduit machine. Il pas conduit machine, mais la technologie a trompé. Alors, il pas conduit licence est suspended pour le temps jusqu'à ce qu'il réunion licence et il prend machine, l'a conduit et l'a fait Zoom meeting avec code là. Ça va être très pas bon. Deuxièmement, moi assister, moi c'est des monde qui parlent dans côte là, ils pas habillé. Mes amis, li pas fait sens façon présento là et façon y a regarder ou on s'y a traité dans sens ça. Yo dit que dans pour haïtien l'habit ne fait pas le moine, mais l'habit fait reconnaître le moine. Ou pas parler non côte, ou parler non devant un juge ou bien avocat ou et puis vous me laissez dormir sur. Il pas aucun sens. You go into the court and you're going to go to before the judge and the lawyer. And you dress with your
pajamas.
Your pajamas. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. How you come to you go to the court and you wear your pajamas? It doesn't make any sense. So, m'encourage mes frères et sœurs, mes collègues haïtiens, mes fellow haïtiens, de nous prendre dans côte la please habillé. Mettez rad sous nous. Pas prendre pause nous, c'est mon qui trop pas habillé. Mettez rad sous nous. L'habit ne fait pas le moine, mais l'habit fait reconnaître le moine. Encore, c'est 2 bons points. Très important. 1, dans mon code, pas mis code là. Et mais que si vous avez un Zoom meeting, make sure que vous faites de façon très professionnelle parce qu'il y a gado, il y a moniteur et deuxièmement vous parlez dans côté là habillé.
Now, one thing I want to add to that is, yes, we joke around about someone who might come in their pajamas. Now, of course, we want to maintain courtroom decorum, but there's also that real life, real world perspective and understanding that perhaps someone came in not in their Sunday best, not intentionally, but maybe because there's something going on.
Yeah.
There's, you know, they maybe that's all they have to wear.
Yeah.
So that's also another layer of understanding that you have to have as a judge.
Exactly. Alors, m'a dit nous ça, si nous pas gen rad, gen côté gen rad pour nous.
Yeah.
Yeah, gen plus defender là, gen store. De plein rad. Ah, so pas comme ça, me comme ça. So là, on pas gen rad passer Benjamin, et bien moi dire que c'est pas qu'on zami qui a bon rad, et bien on ka passer dans public defender là, gen toute qualité rad qui est disponible pour pouvoir pas présenter devant le juge là avec un pyjama sur pour monde qui pas habillé tête pas peigné préparer tête pour poser devant le juge et puis au cas respecter. Vous voulez respect, vous procurer vous-même.
So I'll move on to the next question. As a judge, you have to embody fairness and impartiality. How will you ensure fairness and impartiality in your courtroom? What are you going to do? What are the particulars that you'll do to ensure that?
Adhering to the rule of law, number one. I know that we've talked about it again, but it is my number one theme. I'm very passionate about it. Treating everyone with respect and dignity, and that's regardless of where they come from or what the circumstance may be. I think transparency is something I haven't spoken about yet, but there's fairness and impartiality, and there's also the perception of fairness and impartiality. Yeah. We did touch upon fairness, we talked about perception a little while ago, but when you are transparent about the reasons for your ruling, and while you're worried about being efficient, and that's important, you take a moment maybe, especially in a particular case that was maybe particularly heated, to explain your decision, explain your ruling, and be very transparent about it, and articulate what is the legal basis for it. I think that creates a perception of fairness, and fairness is already delivered, right?
Yeah.
I'm very proud of our judiciary here in Palm Beach County. I think we have a great judiciary, and I believe that our judges are fair. I think that there's always room for improvement, and I think the greatest room for improvement is that transparency and having people feel like they were treated fairly. And a lot of it it goes a long way, just explaining the basis for your decision, what the law was, and being transparent about it.
Well, you know qui est important, c'est la transparence. Par exemple, à la table, tout n'a pas ouais, ça qu'a fait là, et c'est ça mais pour faire. Ça veut dire que pas bon balance. Il y a transparence et deuxièmement, les faire, ça veut dire que il pas bon penchant. Et me préfère un tel, en faveur d'un tel, pas en faveur de même non, la fait juste pour tout le monde que lié. De pour parler ou douer justice, que ce soit couleur, ça groupe ethnique ou la langue ou parler, et bien rôle Miss Casanova c'est pour faire respecter la loi et appliquer pour tout le monde. Je pense que c'est très très important pour nous gagner qui comprennent nous. D'ailleurs, les sorties Cuba, c'est bagarre Cuba, nous ça c'est la même situation, justice la caille nous. N'a même bras à justice. Il connaît là. Dans quelle situation peuple noyé, il dit hey, je veux aller beaucoup plus loin. À monter beaucoup plus loin. Il va dans une position qui est plus higher, qui est plus haut, capable d'aider la communauté noire à une plus bonne justice, plus bon traitement.
So now, no two cases are the same. No matter how many similarities they have, they're just not the same. The people involved are not the same. The backgrounds are not the same. So the reason why I kind of give you that background is I know we've been talking about the letter of the law. And I would say the letter of the law would be the plain language of the law. But we also have the spirit of the law. I would say the spirit of the law would be the legislative purpose, the reasoning behind the law. So as a judge, how are you going to balance the two? And taking in perspective that no two cases are the same, how do you plan to balance the two?
Well, I think when we're coming down to the question of spirit of the law, that's a dangerous road to go down. And that is my opinion, that is my judicial philosophy, and not everybody has that philosophy. But I do think when we start guessing at what the legislature intended, that's not the will of the people. The legislature are a few people, right? And the private intent of these legislatures do not express the will of the people. Now, the people elected the legislators to come up with laws. The law itself, the text, is what ended up being voted on, and that is the law. Not necessarily any other discussion that was had beforehand. You know, all of that was rejected at some point, and what became the law became the law. So I personally believe that the spirit of the law is a dangerous road to go down, because who gets to decide what is the spirit of the law? If you go into the legislative notes, you may find something in one direction and you may find something else in another direction. So that's where I believe you, as a judge, you would be stepping outside of your role as someone who is just supposed to interpret the law as it is and not make laws. So I'm a firm believer in not legislating from the bench, because that could, in one situation, favor the community or favor a particular person, but in another situation it won't, right? And who is a judge to decide what the will of the people is as decided by the laws that were passed? I think that's just a very dangerous road to go down. Now, within the law, within the letter of the law, certain laws permit discretion. And that is where you can look into circumstance, age, like we talked about, criminal history, whatever the case, whether there's poverty involved, whether there's mental illness, whether there's a drug issue. But that would be only if the law permits it, right? Discretion within the law. But spirit of the law is a dangerous road to go down. Only, you know, and I just have this very, very personal perspective on it because of my family's background in a country that a lot of times would say this is the spirit of the law, not the law itself. I think the best way to protect our freedoms is to base decisions on the law.
Absolument. Donc, il parlait de l'esprit de loi, il y a la loi et l'esprit de loi. Donc, et M. Casanova dit que l'esprit de loi spirituelle est très dangereux. Il n'est pas là pour faire loi, il est là pour interpréter la loi. Je pense que c'est une plus belle définition capable de faire, parce que en pile fois nous chita derrière l'esprit de loi pour nous forcer pour une loi. I mean, we try to hide behind the spirit of the law to make our own law.
Correct.
It doesn't make any sense.
Very dangerous.
Very dangerous.
That happens in dictatorships.
Exactly. So he doesn't make the law. She will be there to interpret the law. So nous encourageons encore une fois, ce type de conversation besoin dans la communauté pour connaître qui pour voter. Pour pas voter par émotion, pour voter par qui nous pas faire choix. Do not vote by emotion. Make the good choice to know who you're going to vote. Your vote counts.
I think that response was probably the most important response of the night, because we did talk about the Constitution and just the separations of the law, checks and balances, and that's what that's all about. You have, as a judge, this is your job. This is what you do. You're not there to make up law, like you said. And the legislator and their intent, ultimately, they hashed all that out, and this is what they birthed. This is what they said the law was. And we do as, well, I said we, I'm not a judge, but
well, someday you will.
Someday. But as a judge, they do allow room for your philosophy, your beliefs to kind of creep in where you have your discretion. They do allow for that, but the law is a law. That's what we follow. If there's an error in it, it's up to them to point it out and change it, and for the people to vote on it. So that was the most important response of the night, and I'm glad we got to it. How do you plan to engage with community and ensure that their voices are heard in the judicial process?
That's a great question. So I mentioned how I'm very involved in the community, but I haven't talked about my involvement as it directly relates to the judicial system. So I have twice been a co-chair for the Bench Bar Conference, not for the actual conference, but for a session within the Palm Beach County Bench Bar Conference. And the Bench Bar Conference is almost like the Super Bowl for attorneys, judges, and paralegals. It's the largest event in Palm Beach County where judges, paralegals, and lawyers come in to receive continuing legal education in various areas of law and to just get updates on the law, right? To learn new things that they didn't know before and just to get updates on issues that are affecting us all. And I have been the co-chair, so I organized a couple of sessions for these judges, lawyers, and paralegals. And I not only organized, but I taught these continuing legal education classes. I've taught another continuing legal education class through the Palm Beach County Bar, separate and apart from the Bench Bar Conference. But another thing I do is I teach about the law outside the legal community. So I do a lot of Know Your Rights presentations, usually with the underserved communities. El Sol Resource Center in Jupiter. I've done a lot of Know Your Rights with the immigrant community, and usually I explain to them, no, you cannot drive without a license, right? You cannot drive without a license, it's illegal. You'll get in trouble, right? I'll talk to them about DUI. I'll talk to them about all types of cases within the criminal justice system and also about immigration law, but just so they know what the law is, what their rights are, right? What isn't the correct thing to do, what is the correct thing to do. I've also spoken at Palm Beach State College, I believe Kaiser University, I'm trying to think all the schools, Florida Atlantic University.
That's
so I've
cool.
done a lot of Know Your Rights presentations in the community, to go beyond educating lawyers, judges, and paralegals and talk to our community so they can understand the judicial system better.
Well, li involve en pile dans la communauté noire, dans la communauté yo, pour li di moun yo connaît loi non, connaît droit non. Mais ça pour nous faire, par exemple, si vous avez une licence, il ne doit pas conduire machine, mais qui est illégal. Il pas de spécial avec les gens qui immigrants yo. Nous sommes dans l'autre pays yo, comment peut connaître loi yo, dans le pays ça droit yo, dans le pays ça. Donc, je pense que c'est un pays qui est très très important. Most of the time, we come to the US, we don't know anything about the law. We end up in the jail and prison because we don't know anything about the law. En plus, nous ne pas connaître rien dans le système, et puis nous en prison, puis dans la prison, nous ne connaissons rien. Lui-même, travail, il est très involvant pour les éduquer les gens dans la question pour connaître droit et devoir dans la communauté.
And talking about that, that people come here not understanding the law, I think a lot of people come here as well, and again, coming from an immigrant family, a lot of people come here and are suspicious of the judicial system, and they may think that it's like the place they came from, where there is no justice and there is no integrity and there is no fairness. And so, in addition to educating individuals about the law or the community, I think it's important to let them know that in the United States, we do have the separation of powers. In the state of Florida, we do have the separation of powers, and we want to reinforce that faith in the judicial system. Of course, it's not just all talk. You have to have people on the bench who are going to live that, right? To live those principles and exercise those principles. But I think the education component about the actual law, in addition to reassuring them that this is a place of fairness and justice and integrity, that makes people more comfortable stepping into a courtroom.
Ça, c'est un gros problème parce que nous sommes dans un pays qui n'a pas de loi, comme on a en Haïti, comme Cuba, etc. Donc, les gens dans le système, ça, ils ont peur. Ils pensent qu'il y a dans le côte là, ils pensent qu'ils ne peuvent pas faire mal, ils ne peuvent pas faire méchanceté, ils ne peuvent pas prendre justice. Donc, travail lui-même comme monde qui est engagé dans la communauté, c'est éduquer les gens, faire connaître que ou côté là, par exemple, peur, une loi pour tout le monde. Parce que nous comprenons ça. I understand them because they're from Haiti, from other countries where there are no justice system, where properly like in USA. So this is why they're very scared. So, ils n'ont pas besoin de peur, depuis nous font bagaille, pas gourmet, chercher justice, aller dans côte là. Il y a plusieurs arènes dans côte là où qu'elle fait une plainte, pas être justice. So, par contre, nous bagaille en termes de justice, aller dans côte là, aller dans legal aid, il y a des gens qui aident mieux comprendre, sans pas comprendre là. Parce que le pays ça, est bien structuré en termes de justice. Et là où l'on vient là-dedans, nous oblige, n'est-ce pas, à vivre à connaître les gens qui fonctionnent, sans quoi nous avons un problème. Nous pas en Haïti, nous pas Cuba, nous pas DR. You are in the US.
Yes. Amen. And we are blessed to be in the United States.
Of course.
So I know you shared about some of your background, some of your Cuban heritage, and some of the struggles that country has gone through. This next question, I guess it kind of brings some more context to it. I'll speak from personal experience. I'm from here. My parents are obviously Haitian, so I'm second generation Haitian. But I'm from here. I grew up here. I'm a Delray kid. I've been here pretty much all my life. I've only left for school and then I've come back. And the reason why I kind of give you that background is because just going into the justice system and deciding to become a lawyer, like I was an undergrad criminal justice major, and I've always been drawn to the law. And the reasoning behind that is because as a kid, growing up, I had a lot of friends that were not always on the right side of the law. I was fortunate enough I had my own mind, so I wasn't influenced by that. I've done some things I'm not proud. I'm not gonna incriminate myself. I'm not gonna incriminate myself, but I've done some things stupid stuff as a kid.
No one is perfect.
For sure. But I want to say those experiences kind of pushed me into this path. So my question for you is, can you share a personal experience that has profoundly impacted your views on justice and fairness?
You know, that is a great question, and I have not had I think this is a great thing. I haven't had a negative interaction with the court system that would have caused me to want to be judge. I think to the contrary, what has caused me to be judge is my family's experience, but also observing the judicial system in a positive way and seeing what a positive impact you can have. Truly, since I was from as long as I can remember, but really I remember writing it down when I was 13 years old. Wow. I had, now you're going to really know about me. I wrote down my life goals when I was 13 years old. It was in English class in 7th grade. I still have that piece of paper, and my life goals were in this order: go to college, be a lawyer, and meet the Backstreet Boys. Guess what? I have done all of them.
Oh, that's cool.
I actually met my third goal 2 years ago, just cool. Through the fact, a little bit of luck, right? The band was still together, but also working very hard to be able to afford that meet and greet. But the point is, going back to my life goals, for as long as I can remember, I wanted to be a lawyer, but I wouldn't say that there was a negative experience that drove me to that personally. I know my family had a lot of negative experiences in another country, but ever since they came here, right, they found freedom. And that's the perspective I have, is a love for this country, the love for freedom, and the desire to preserve that freedom in a capacity where you're making those decisions to preserve the freedom.
That's awesome.
Well, depuis qu'il a 13 ans, il écrit step la ville, ça le va faire dans le futur. Il a un objectif. Il dit que le secret de la vie, c'est de travailler avec un objectif. Il a 13 ans, dans 7e grade, il a écrit comment la ville va lier. Et ça où elle lié aujourd'hui, c'est pas le fruit du hasard. Il était planifié, Il travaille dur pour faire ça. Et je dis, next step, il parle. Autant à 7 h du matin, si vous ne faire earlier, et bien pas oublier voter moun qui a campé pour vous, qui a aidé vous, qui a défendu vous. Pour faire choix.
And just to clarify, I was born here in the United States. And I've been, like I said, I've been in Palm Beach County since I was 3, but I am first generation American in the sense that I was born here even before my parents became citizens. Possibly before, I'm trying to think of the timeline, possibly before they even became residents.
Been born here, right?
Yeah.
Born in the United States.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
Okay.
Blessed to have been born in the United States.
Okay.
So you have a lot going on right now.
Oh, yes.
Whole lot. So my next question for you is, how do you balance all of that? Your legal career, personal life, and now this campaign. How are you balancing that?
I am not going to lie and say that it is easy, and it is a struggle every day. But I am someone who knows how to wear many hats, and at the end of the day, you have to just pause and think about your priorities, and that is faith and family, right? Faith and family come first. Everything else is secondary. And everything else that I talked about is truly important to me. The law, I'm very passionate about it, right? I'm very passionate about justice. But faith and family come first, right?
Okay.
And so just keeping the right perspective. And from a practical point of view, not only do you have that perspective that keeps you well-rounded and grounded, but sometimes you need to calendar your personal time.
Yeah.
In the same way that you schedule whatever meeting it is that you have, whatever client conference, whatever event that you're going to for business. You take the time because it's important and you don't want to miss it. You put it on your calendar. I think it's also important to calendar your personal time, the time with your family.
Sure. I think l'important pour ne pas avancer dans la fin, je déjà prends presque 30 minutes sous l'heure. Donc, comme ça, c'est vraiment important pour nous faire pendant approcher vers l'élection qui est très important pour qu'on va voter. Mais cependant, il dit que la vie, il faut un choix. Il est vrai qu'il y a plusieurs chapeaux, mais c'est ça qui est priorité dans la vie. Famille, c'est ça qui est priorité dans la vie. Moi-même, je dis Dieu d'abord, then family, then tout le reste va venir après. God first, family second, and other things come after.
Yes. That's true.
Yep. And I think I've kind of arranged for things like that in my life too. It's faith, family, and then whatever else I got going on. Everything I've done, I've prayed for it, and then I run it by my wife, and then we kind of tag team it together, and
Wonderful.
we get it done.
That's the way to do it.
So my next question is, it's actually for me, but I'm gonna paint it like it's for other people, but this is for me. What advice would you give a young lawyer who aspires to become a judge?
Get a lot of courtroom experience because you are going to be in the courtroom, right? Broad experience, so not just in criminal law. I think you need to expand and do criminal, civil, traffic. I think you need to have a working knowledge of multiple areas of law, right? I think you need to observe, I know, you need to observe other judges, right? And see how it's done. I think staying on top of the law, the rules of procedure, our Constitution, and being mindful of all of those things. But aside from all the technicalities, the number one advice I would give is to continue, and I know you treat people well, that you continue to treat people with kindness.
Amen.
Because people will always remember that. And the most important thing is treating someone with kindness and temperament, having the right temperament and right demeanor. So if you're seeking to be a judge, there's really two ways, right? You could be appointed or you can be elected. Either way, it's a campaign in and of itself.
Yeah.
And people are going to look to the community, not just the legal community, but the community at large, to see who you are, not just as a lawyer, but as a person, right? Because they want good people. The community wants good people on the bench. So I would say continue to treat people with kindness in addition to building those legal skills.
Well, l'important et même essentiel, nous traiter moun bien. Parce que moun sa quoi traiter mal jodi, la songer sorti fait là. C'est la raison pourquoi l'important, l'essentiel, pour nous traiter moun bien, avec respect, avec amour, avec passion.
You kind of covered question 17. I need to get into different areas. Well, if you want to become a judge, you need to get into different areas of the law. You need to expose yourself to different areas.
Can I jump in?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but something else that is important, and I think goes to steps or experiences to becoming a judge, is community involvement. And because being a judge is about serving the community, and so I think you need to show the community that you're serving. As a prosecutor, you do serve. You serve the state of Florida. You serve the people of the state of Florida, right, by doing justice. But beyond your role, your 8 to 5, and actually we all know it's more than an 8 to 5 as a prosecutor. Beyond your 24/7, I should say, you should really get involved in bar associations and take on leadership roles, and also get involved in the community at large. But don't just do it for the resume, right? Do it because you care and you want to serve. So find the causes that matter to you and really get into those. And I think that makes you a well-rounded individual, not just on paper, but in your heart, right? And in the eyes of the community. I think you need to have a heart of service, and that needs to start well before you get on the bench.
Okay. We actually have a question from one of our viewers.
Great.
This viewer says, can you discuss any specific reforms or improvements that you would advocate for within the judicial system?
So that is a tricky question only because as a judicial candidate, no judicial candidate can discuss policy. So in terms of judicial reform, if we're talking about something that the legislature would have to decide, no judicial candidate can discuss that. It would be a violation of the judicial canons as presented by the Florida Supreme Court. I can talk about, once again, efficiency and due process and access to courts and the use of technology. Those are all things I care about and that I know are very important. Like I said, the use of technology in order to allow more people to attend court or to not miss court and to not miss work. I think that's critical. The efficiency aspect, meaning you give every case the time and the attention it deserves, but you need to be a decision maker, you need to be a multitasker, because you're going to get a lot of cases and you can't have people waiting there for you to make a decision. So you need to be a decision maker. And I think I said I said efficiency, I said technology, I've talked about access to courts, which is all related, and due process, which has to do with notice in a hearing, making sure that people are receiving the notices to come to court and allowing people to be heard where the law requires it. But in terms of policy discussions, no judicial candidate is permitted to discuss policy.
My next question is, how important is mentorship in the journey to becoming a judge, and how can a young lawyer find mentors in the field?
Oh, well, mentorship has recently been a big topic within the Florida Bar. And as a matter of fact, a couple of Florida Bar presidents ago, that was the theme, it was connecting younger attorneys with not necessarily older attorneys, but attorneys who have a few more years, and it's not necessarily about formal mentorship where you have to join a program. It's more finding a friend in the community who you can talk to about anything, whether it's the law itself, a legal issue, whether it's how to run a business, whether it's how to have that work-life balance. I think that's important. Finding a mentor. Oh, we have more questions. I'm very excited.
No, we already went through this question.
So in terms of mentorship, or well, rephrase it for me so I can give you the right answer, because I want to give you the right answer in terms of how do you find a mentor, how do you mentor someone, or whether someone has mentored me. I can tell you I've had a lot of mentors.
So that is kind of where I'm going with it, because like I said, it's this question's for me, but so just kind of the process of finding a mentor, the process of I want to say reaching out to a judge, whether current or former.
Got it.
And you personally, like, what have you done as far as seeking a mentor to kind of give you the ins and outs about sitting on the bench?
Well, I'll start by saying that I have been fortunate enough to have mentors find me. So when I first started, not even as a prosecutor, this was when I was still in law school as a certified legal intern, there were judges that I practiced before them, in front of them, that took the initiative, seeing me as a baby prosecutor and being nervous and not knowing yet what the whole court system was like, because as you know, you don't learn all of that in law school. You need that practical experience. But I've had judges seek me out, and the judges would be fair about that, so they would talk to the prosecutors and the public defenders, the assistant public defenders, and call them into chambers and say, oh, I saw that you did well on this. This is how you can improve. And constructive criticism, but all in a positive way. So sometimes a mentor will seek you out. But if you are going to seek a mentor, you need to be intentional. You need to be bold. And if there's someone that you admire in whatever respect, whether it's you admire their cross-examination skills, or you admire the fact that they do have that work-life balance, or that they're so great with, even outside of government work, if you see someone who's great at running a business, or great with clients, or signing clients, getting business, you need to seek them out and say, hey, I really admire you. I would like to either shadow you or just sit down and have a cup of coffee or tea or whatever it is that you want to do, and say, I want to learn more. And most people are willing to do that, because I can tell you, I'm always willing to sit down and mentor someone because I'm paying it forward. Many people have mentored me and helped me along the way. And it's important to pay it forward and continue to help others.
I consider that an offer. I'll take you up on that after.
Absolutely. After the campaign.
Okay, I'm gonna let you finish this campaign. Then I'll reach out to you. Yeah.
Well, côté toujours important pour aider les gens. La vie, ou pas pour contrôler la vie. Ou toujours un monde qui pour bon main. C'est la vie. Pas qu'à faire succès pour compte. Donc, il y a un pile monde qui est dérivé côté il y a un mentor. Dans la besoin il y a un mentor. Un monde qui passe dans autant ensemble avant qui ouais toute mauvaise voie route qui pour mener pour pas tromper même côté. Donc l'important n'importe savoir faire. Qu'on en business, qu'on soit avocat, qu'on soit professeur, etc., ou son pasteur, nous avons besoin de mentor. Nous avons un monde qui va mentoring nous dans tout ça qu'on a fait. Et il pas fait, il vient là, c'est pas le fruit du hasard. C'est parce que, n'est-ce pas, il y a un monde qui a bal conseil, qui a que jusqu'à présent. Ou besoin, moins besoin, libre, nous besoin de mentor.
So we're kind of getting to the end. So these questions will show that we're wrapping things up. What do you believe sets you apart from candidates running for the judicial position?
Well, I am a small business owner, and I think that's really important, and not only because of the multi-practice firm and the breadth of my experience with the various areas of law, but being a small business owner and representing other small business owners is critical to county court, because you, in county court, especially in county civil, you're interacting with small business owners. A lot of things are contract issues, right? Small monetary disputes. So the county court, on the criminal side, it's misdemeanors. On the civil side, it's monetary disputes of $50,000 or less, right? Or it could include traffic tickets. But when you're looking at these monetary disputes of $50,000 or less, you're looking at small business owners with everyday issues and real life issues, right? Real life problems that they come to the court to resolve. So I think that perspective as a business owner is important. But it's everything. It's the well-rounded experience. I'm the only candidate who has the county court experience in terms of criminal, civil, and traffic, litigating in all those divisions, plus the executive leadership skills of having run a business and a bar association at the same time, plus the active and consistent community involvement. I'm the only one with all three. And I think it is important to be well-rounded. And as to the last point, not just being involved in the legal organizations, but in the community at large. I think that matters as well. And so that well-rounded experience makes me the best choice for a county court judge.
Well, en même temps, là, c'est un avocat, c'est un business owner, et l'a mené l'autre groupe avocat dans ça. Donc, son monde qui gagne plusieurs chapeaux en même temps. Parce que son monde qui gagne qui bien, et parmi il gagne skills, leadership. So, une meilleure skill nous besoin pour capable faire succès, c'est leadership. Car un leader, donc you could be a leader, but be a great leader. A great leader has to handle situation despite whatever it is. So she's the one who has those skills: leadership, caring, passion and compassion for the job, for what she loves what she's doing. She lui remet ça la faire.
Oh, we went over time? I didn't know that. I just have two more questions.
Because we're having such a good time that we're going with these questions.
I have two more questions, and these are very important. How can the public get involved or support your campaign?
Oh, well, this is a wonderful question, and people ask this all the time: how to get involved? Join the committee. Join the committee for Casanova for Judge, and anyone can go to CasanovaForJudge.com, and there should be a form on there, or you can email CasanovaForJudge@gmail.com. Contact the campaign and say you want to join the committee. Within committee membership, someone can do as much or as little as they want, because people have lives and they're busy, right? They have families. But if someone wants to support could mean putting up a yard sign. It could mean sharing something on social media, right? It could mean moral support. It could mean a lot of things. It could mean just adding your name to the committee so that everyone sees that there's another person in the community who supports the campaign. So, but the important part is joining the committee and continuing to learn more about the campaign through social media and through the website.
Well, comment nous capables continuer supporter Casanova dans bataille ça, pour mon aller dans ce website là où écrit CasanovaForJudge.com. Easy, facile, aller sur website là, écrit CasanovaForJudge.com, et puis vous êtes capable de une application qui aider de n'importe façon. Vous pouvez bailler l'argent, vous pouvez bailler temps, vous pouvez partager programme ça sur social media la caillou. Donc bien sur plateforme YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, you name it. Donc fait nouvelle arriver beaucoup plus loin avant 20 août. Spread the news. before August 20th.
And I forgot to say the most important thing. The best way to support is vote.
Of course, vote.
I ask for your vote. I ask to earn your vote. So if anyone has any questions, please reach out to me. You can reach out to the campaign, and I reassure you that the campaign will let me know. And if you send an email with your phone number, I will call you back. I do call back voters.
That's cool.
I do contact voters back. I think it's very important to address any questions that a voter has before making a decision, because it has to be an informed decision. But vote. There is vote by mail, you have early voting, and you have the election day, August 20th. And every vote counts.
Absolutely. Donc, yon nan pi bon cadeau pour ka bay Miss Casanova à soya, c'est arranger ou pour aller voter. Pour ka di ma bay l'argent, mais sou pas voter ou mise de point. Qu'on va bay temps, mais sou pas voter ou still mise de point. Donc, pi bon ba ka fait pour nous à soya, c'est planifier pour aller voter. Ou ka fait premièrement ka dans early voting pour éviter big line, pour éviter embouteillage, ou bien pour faire by mail, pour prendre vote ou remplir ou faire by mail. Et troisièmement, 20 février, 20 août à 7h du matin, pas oublier à voter juge pour là.
Something very important, Pastor. I'm sorry to interrupt. And I already forgot before I said it. You were voting. Okay, yes, going back to the voting. And this is something that people should know. Anyone who is registered in Palm Beach County can vote in this election. It doesn't matter the party, because this is a nonpartisan race. Earlier, when a constituent asked the question about policy, and that is why judicial candidates are not allowed to answer questions about reform or policy, because this is a nonpartisan race. So going back to the nonpartisan nature of this race, the good news is anyone registered to vote in Palm Beach County can vote in this election, regardless of party affiliation, or even if the person has no party affiliation, you can go to the poll and vote.
Encore une fois, et ou pas tout mettre bien parti par ou parti favori ou left or right, it doesn't matter pour élection ça. Ou qu'on a pas gagné une là-dedans yo ou indépendant, bien ou aller voter mon sa yo 20 août 2024 à 7h du matin pour capable faire Miss Casanova prochain juge dans Palm Beach County. Alors, samedi a engagé Connexion Plus. Samedi la Connexion Plus qui endossé de sa Miss Casanova et pour le juge Palm Beach County. Et qui dernier mot? Alors, nous excusez téléspectateurs yo. Nous avons fini à 9h, nous excusez techniciens yo. Pourtant yo. Nous excusez nous, mais je dis c'est qui très important parce que moyen pour changer la communauté c'est voter. Et maintenant pour vous qui ne va voter, pas connaît mon yo. C'est la raison pour voter devant deux yeux ou qui moun va voter mais qui moun lié, c'est ça il va faire. Qui dernier mot Mr. Vlad?
And Judge Casanova,
I hope you manifest it.
I said judge.
I hope you manifest it.
Is there anything else that you would like our audience to know about your vision and your campaign, or your campaign?
The judgeship, or I should say a judgeship, is not a crowning achievement. It's not for financial gain. It is a career of service. And I have dedicated my career to serving our community inside and outside the courtroom through being a prosecutor, through being a small business owner, helping others in need in various areas of law, through running a bar association, through my work with Special Olympics and Latinos in Action and several other organizations in the community. And I have shown through my track record in the courtroom and outside the courtroom that I am the right choice for this position, and that I'm a well-rounded individual, and that I care about our community, and that I am deeply committed to the rule of law and to serving the citizens of Palm Beach County.
Amen. Nous avons 6 à 7 000 personnes qui attendent, qui regardent à soya parole ça yo. Donc pas oublier, ils sont carrière ça lui va prendre, si va son servante que lui pour servir la communauté avec loyauté, avec intégrité, pour capable pour de justice pour tout le monde. Well, voting is a civic duty for those who are qualified for it. One of the best ways to bring change in a democratic system is to vote. If you want to change something in our system, the best way to do so is by voting. And this is why on August 20, 2024, 7 in the morning, the rooms will be widely open to go to vote. I strongly encourage it to go to vote. Don't miss out this opportunity. If you miss it, you will be regret. Think and take action. Which one to go to vote August 20th at 7, from 7 to 7 that day. Do not miss that out. May God bless you. Well, thank you, Mr. Vlada, for being here. You do have done a great job. I'm telling you, I'm very, very proud of you. And thank you, Ms. Casanova.
Thank you.
You have done a great job, and we keep moving forward to seeing you as the next judge in Palm Beach County.
I am very grateful for this opportunity. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Et thank you for being here. And I'm remercie d'une façon particulière, n'est-ce pas, mes chers techniciens, mes frères, mes amis. Ils sont très patients avec moi. Ils sont mes frères, mes collaborateurs. I mean, I'm pas un mot capable de parler de monsieur ça. Bon Dieu, voyez de bon côté moi pour et supporter mes amis, m'emmerder comme ça. Mais bon Dieu fait mettre comme voix droite moi pour supporter. Thank you my guys. Thank you everyone. Thank you for watching Connexion Plus. Merci de regarder Connexion Plus. Nous avons rendez-vous semaine prochaine, jeudi prochain à 8h pour 9h, même cap la Connexion Plus. Merci, que mon Dieu bénisse. Bonsoir.
Êtes-vous un propriétaire d'entreprise qui fait partie de notre communauté haïtienne dynamique en Floride et dans les Caraïbes ? Si tel est le cas, vous avez probablement remarqué à quel point la vidéo devient importante en matière de marketing, de vente et de capture de souvenirs. En fait, l'utilisation de la vidéo est récemment devenue une attente des clients dans le monde entier. Et que vous le sachiez ou non, vous avez une histoire inspirante mais non contée. Votre point de vue unique sur le travail, la vie et tout le reste. Mais avec tout le monde qui crée du contenu en ligne maintenant, il est presque impossible de se démarquer. C'est pourquoi vous avez besoin de Lens Magic de Cajou TV, des services de production vidéo auxquels vous pouvez faire confiance. Des courts et longs films, des émissions de télévision aux événements en direct, au contenu des médias sociaux, aux occasions spéciales, quels que soient vos besoins vidéo, aucun projet n'est trop grand ou petit. Lens Magic utilise uniquement les dernières technologies et équipements pour ravir nos clients à chaque fois. Notre excellente réputation au sein de la communauté est basée sur d'innombrables projets réussis, réalisés au cours des 20 dernières années dans toute la Floride, Haïti et les Caraïbes. Et en plus, nos forfaits flexibles garantissent aux clients la meilleure qualité à des prix abordables. Alors qu'est-ce que vous attendez ? Visitez cajoutv.tv et découvrez comment vous pouvez utiliser la vidéo pour mieux raconter vos histoires.
Non, moi, c'est Nicole Alexis. Moi, sorti New York. Chaque jeudi, chaque vendredi à 8h, 9h, moi branché Connexion Plus. Connexion Plus, c'est moi-même, c'est vous-même, c'est lui-même, c'est nous tous.